Well, hey, everybody. I often hear this statement that we need to, as Christians, people who follow Christ, people who read the Bible, we need to interpret Scripture with Scripture. I hear that often. And I want to affirm that, number one, yes, but I want to affirm that with caution. And here's why I want to say that. While the sentiment can seem to be a great one, it seemed to be true, we need to be very careful in how we are utilizing that. And what I mean by that is this. Not every part of Scripture should interpret other Scripture. When we think about this, I think the better way to say this is that we should allow Jesus to be our hermeneutic. We should allow, as a Christian, I should say Jesus interprets Torah for me. Jesus is the one who helps us through the Sermon on the Mount and that kind of stuff, helps us understand what that part of Scripture is about. The Apostle Paul can help us understand certain parts of the Old Testament and how it relates to following Christ. But at the end of the day, our main hermeneutic needs to be Christ and how he interprets the Hebrew Bible, how he speaks about it, and how he interprets Scripture. So just to say, well, we need to interpret Scripture with Scripture can be a dangerous sentiment, because what we end up doing is we end up centering and prioritizing one part of Scripture and saying this is going to be the one that overrides this other part over here, and this other part needs to be overridden by this part. When I look at it, I have a high Christology, and so I say Jesus is the one who interprets Scripture for us, not just any Scripture interpreting other Scriptures. So, like I said, I think it's a true statement, but we need to carefully employ that. And we need to be cautious that we're not using Scripture to make another part of Scripture say something that it was never supposed to say in the first place. So, just a kind of a little heads up.